On February 24th, 1978, 5 young men went to a basketball game in Chico, California. They were supposed to drive home that night. They had families waiting for them. They had plans the next day. They had no reason to disappear, but they never made it home. Days later, their car was found abandoned on a remote mountain road, far from the route they should have taken. The car still worked, and the question that mattered most was never answered. Why were they there at all? Before this became a mystery, it was just a Friday night. 5 men from Yuba County had driven to Chico to watch a college basketball game. Their names were Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Jackie Hewitt, Ted Wire, and Gary Mathias. They were adults, ranging in age from their mid-20s to their early 30s. Several of them lived with developmental or psychiatric challenges, but they were also active, social, and familiar to their families as a close group of friends. They played sports together. They spent time together. And on that night, they had gone out together for something completely ordinary. They watched the game at Chico State. Afterward, they stopped for snacks. Then they got back into Madruga's car, a 1969 Mercury Montego, and began what should have been a straightforward drive home. From Chico to Yuba City, the route was not complicated. It was familiar enough. It was not supposed to lead into the mountains. But sometime after leaving Chico, something changed. The car did not continue toward home. It went the wrong way. That wrong turn is the center of the entire case, because the Yuba County Five did not vanish from a trailhead. They did not vanish during a camping trip. They did not vanish while exploring the wilderness. They disappeared after a basketball game. Their families knew them well. And according to reports, the men were not dressed for the cold. They were not prepared for a mountain trip. And they were not known to seek out remote winter roads at night. Yet their car ended up in Plumas National Forest, on a road far from the direct route home. This is where the case begins to feel almost impossible, not because the road was hidden, not because the car vanished without a trace, but because there was no clear reason for them to be there. There was no confirmed plan, no known destination, no explanation from anyone who knew them. Just a car pointed into the mountains, as if the night had quietly bent in the wrong direction. The Mercury was found several days later, on February 28th. A Forest Service ranger recognized it after seeing a missing persons bulletin and led authorities to the location. Inside the car were signs of the night before. Programs from the basketball game, food wrappers, a folded map. But the 5 men were gone. The car itself created more questions. It had become stuck in snow, but investigators reportedly believed it was still operable. The snow was not so severe that 5 men should have been unable to push it free. That detail has haunted the case for decades. Because if the car could move, why leave it? And if they had to leave it, why not walk back the way they came? Behind them was the road that led away from the mountains. Ahead of them was deeper snow, colder terrain, and distance. They chose, or were forced, to leave the car, and from that point on, the case becomes a record of absence. No clear tracks that solved it, no note, no final message, only the empty car, sitting where it never should have been. The search began with hope. At first, families believed the men might still be alive. Maybe they had gone somewhere else. Maybe there had been confusion. Maybe they were stranded, but waiting to be found. But the mountain weather worked against everyone. Snow covered the area. The terrain was difficult. The road was remote, and for months, there were no answers. In a different kind of case, silence can feel like a lack of evidence. Here, silence felt like the evidence itself. 5 men had left Chico together. Their car had been found. But the space between the car and the truth was covered by snow. Then, in June, the mountain began to give something back. A group passing through the area came across a Forest Service trailer. Deep in the woods, a window was broken. Inside, searchers found the first major answer, and it made the case even harder to understand. The Forest Service trailer was roughly 19 miles from where the car had been found. Inside was Ted Wire. The discovery showed that at least one of the men had made it much farther than anyone could easily explain. And the trailer did not feel like an ending. It felt like another almost. There was shelter, there were supplies, there was food. Reports described sea rations inside the trailer, and some had been opened. One detail stood out. They appeared to have been opened with a military-style P-38 can opener, the kind used with military rations. That mattered because Mathias and Madruga had military experience, making them 2 of the men most likely to know how to use it. That detail suggests something quietly devastating. Someone may have understood how to survive there. Someone may have tried, but it was not enough. Investigators believed Wire may have lived for a long period after the disappearance, possibly weeks. Yet even surrounded by things that might have helped him, he died in that trailer. That is one of the most haunting parts of the case. Not because it is dramatic, because it is close, almost home, almost able to free the car, almost able to find shelter, almost able to survive. But every almost ends in silence. After the trailer was discovered, more searches followed. The remains of Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, and Jackie Hewitt were eventually found in the wider area. Gary Mathias was not. Mathias remains the missing piece. His shoes were reportedly found at the trailer, while other shoes were missing. That detail has led some investigators and writers to believe he may have survived for some time after reaching it. But that only creates another question. If Gary Mathias left the trailer, where did he go? Did he try to find help? Did he become disoriented? Did he follow another road, another track, another mistake? Or did something happen that has never been recovered from the record? The mountains held onto that answer, and they still have it. There are several theories, but none of them closes the case. The first is the simplest, a wrong turn. Maybe the men became confused after leaving Chico. Maybe they misread the road. Maybe they believed they were heading somewhere familiar. But a wrong turn only explains the beginning. It does not fully explain why they kept going deeper into the mountains. And it does not explain why they left the car instead of walking back. The second theory is fear. A man named Joseph Schons later said he had been stranded in the same general area that night. According to his account, his own vehicle became stuck, and he suffered what he believed was a heart attack while trying to deal with the situation. He later claimed he saw lights and heard people nearby, but when he called for help, they went quiet. If his account is accurate, then the men may not have been alone on that road, but Schons was also in distress, in pain, and in a dangerous environment. His account is important, but it cannot carry the whole case by itself. The third theory is that the men may have continued beyond the abandoned car. This is where the Brownsville sighting enters the record. After the disappearance, a woman working at a store in Brownsville reportedly told deputies she saw 4 of the missing men arrive in a red pickup truck the day after they vanished. The store owner reportedly supported parts of the account, and police took it seriously. If true, that would mean at least some of the men survived beyond the night of the basketball game. But the sighting was never confirmed. No red pickup truck solved the case. No clear trail led from Brownsville back to the trailer. No final answer followed. So the sighting remains suspended between possibility and mistake. The fourth theory is survival confusion. Once the car was stuck, the men may have believed shelter was ahead. They may have followed the road or tracks forward, thinking help was closer than it was. This theory explains the movement toward the trailer, but it still leaves the original mystery intact. Why were they on that road in the first place? And the final theory centers on Gary Mathias. Because he had military experience and a psychiatric history, some accounts focus heavily on him, but this has to be handled carefully. A diagnosis is not an explanation. Mental illness does not automatically make someone dangerous, irrational, or responsible. And in this case, there is no proven evidence that Mathias caused the group to disappear. He may have been another victim. He may have tried to help. He may have survived longer than the others. Or he may have died somewhere no one has found. The truth is that every theory explains one piece, then fails at another. That is why this case remains open in the public imagination. Not because there are no possible explanations, because every possible explanation has a gap. The phrase often attached to this case is the American Dyatlov Pass. It is easy to see why. A group enters a hostile landscape. Their decisions seem strange. Their final movements do not make sense. The environment becomes part of the mystery. But that comparison can also make the case feel distant, almost mythic. The Yuba County Five were not a legend. They were sons, friends, teammates, men with routines, families, favorite places, and people waiting for them to come home. That is what makes the case linger. Not just the abandoned car, not just the mountain road, not just the trailer in the woods, but the ordinary beginning. A basketball game, a drive home, a car full of rappers and programs, a night that should have ended with porch lights, unlocked doors, and families hearing them come in. Instead, the road changed, or something changed on it. The record gives us the car. It gives us the trailer. It gives us the shoes, the sightings, and the theories. But it does not give us the moment that matters most. The moment home stopped being the direction they were going. The hollow record. What do you think turned them away from home? Some roads do not end where they should.